This is no longer the search for missing children. This is the search for killers.
This stretches just so beyond what anyone could imagine.
Breaking news in the case against Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan. I could never come up with this.
Lori was his follower. Chad Daybell's the prophet.
Chad had a vision, plagues, and foreign troops coming to the soil.
Will his wife, Lori Daybell, turn on him?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
All eyes on this Idaho trial.
Big ruling by the judge. The venue changed.
The further away you can get from the scene of the alleged incident, the better off you are.
Think about all the people that had to die and disappear. It's the Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell on trial.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell, she's back in court tomorrow for a motions hearing, now just a few months before her joint death penalty trial with her husband Chad Daybell, where Vallow and her husband Chad were indicted on first-degree murder charges in the deaths of their children Tylee and JJ, who were 16 and only 7 when they were last seen in 2019. They also face charges relating to the deaths of Daybell's first wife, Tammy. Well, tomorrow the court will likely hear several motions, including a motion to remand her indictment for further proceedings, a motion to remand the grand jury indictment for probable cause as to the alleged aggravating factors, and a motion for a continuing objection. But here is a closer look at how we got to where we are.
How long have you guys lived here?
Sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor, sorry.
This is Lori Vallow Daybell, being questioned by police shortly after her then-husband, Charles Vallow, was shot to death by her brother. Here is Vallow Daybell again, married to a new man a few months later.
Now, why don't you just give us a comment? Just tell us where they are.
At the time, her 2 children were missing, and her apparent indifference stunned the community.
There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
The former hairdresser is at the center of one of the most challenging cases for investigators. The mysterious deaths of her children, the sudden deaths of 2 of her ex-husbands, her brother, and her current husband's wife. All are circumstances that have confounded those familiar with the case. The 47-year-old is in jail facing criminal charges related to lying to police about the whereabouts of her children and conspiring to conceal their remains.
Nobody could ever imagine this. Even the best writer in the world could have written this to be as crazy as it is.
For Tylee and JJ's relatives, the tumultuous events surrounding their disappearance and death are tough to comprehend.
We've never had an issue with her ever. And until this.
The person that Kay and I knew and loved, Lori, is not the Lori we knew and loved. And we don't know this person. And it's sad because she was such a good mama to JJ.
Even Lori's son Colby is struggling with his mother's actions.
I can't even fathom that this is happening to our family. I grew up with you. I grew up with Tylee and JJ as my siblings. We grew up in a family. I grew up with stepbrothers and a stepdad. Like, we had a life. And it seems like that life never existed at this point.
Lori grew up in a devout Mormon family with 2 brothers and 2 sisters in California. In 1992, Lori married her first husband, but the marriage didn't last long. By 1995, Lori was married to her second husband, William. The couple had a son named Colby. In 2001, Lori married husband number 3, Joseph Ryan. In 2002, the couple had daughter Tylee. But just 2 years later, Joseph and Lori split. Joseph would later pass away in 2018 of an apparent heart attack. Then Lori met and married Charles Vallow in 2006. Within a few years, the couple adopted a little boy named Joshua Jackson. They called him JJ. In late 2018, while married to Charles, Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell, a religious author, at a conference. Lori's friend, Melanie Gibb, introduced the two.
If you did something bad yesterday, the Lord wants you to say you're sorry today and just do better tomorrow.
Lori and Chad appeared together on a podcast in December 2018, focused on preparing for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And according to Gibb, continued to keep in touch. Eventually, Daybell told Lori that her husband Charles had been overtaken by a dark spirit.
We've been at a great marriage. All of a sudden, the last month, it just blew up. She just lost connection.
It appears that Daybell's influence crept into Lori's relationship with Charles.
Yesterday was a threat to kill me.
Okay. What did she say yesterday?
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers."
In January 2019, Charles Vallow called police, concerned about his wife's mental health.
She's lost her mind. I don't know how else to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a god.
Less than 6 months later, Charles Vallow was shot and killed by his estranged wife's brother, Alex Cox.
Wife, husband got into a verbal argument. Brother steps in. Does your husband live here or no?
No, this is Houston.
Gotcha. Okay. You guys married?
Separated.
Gotcha.
In September 2019, Lori moved to Rexburg, Idaho, just miles from where Chad Daybell lived with his wife and children. Also that same month, Lori's children, Tylee and JJ, would go missing. And in October, Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, would pass away in what authorities deemed suspicious circumstances. And just a few weeks later, on November 5th, Chad Daybell would become Lori's fifth husband in a ceremony in Hawaii. But the honeymoon soon ended, along with any hope the children would be found alive.
Detectives and investigators have recovered what's believed to be human remains.
9 months after the children went missing, the remains of JJ and Tylee were found in Chad Daybell's backyard.
Today we gather here to honor the memory of Tylee and JJ.
The discovery prompted grief from the community and silence from their mother.
Still with me to discuss former special agent in charge of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Trebor Randall, and criminal defense attorney and entertainment attorney Daryl Cohen. I first want to talk to you about this day tomorrow, because at first we were anticipating both Lori and Chad to be in the courtroom together for the first time as co-defendants, the first time since that video we just played in March 2020. March 2020 was the last time they were together in person. But the defense of Chad Daybell reached a stipulation with the prosecution concerning its motion, its objection to consumptive DNA test, and we have that to put on the screen. This is what they agreed to. I want to get your take on it. They agreed that any of the samples for consumptive testing, which was like on a shovel, some duct tape found with JJ's body, to be determined if DNA is present. If DNA is present, then they want the sample to be split between the parties for testing, so the defense can have its own independent testing of that evidence. If there's not enough for a DNA profile, then they'll come back to court for further arguments on whether or not they can consume that testing. Basically what they agreed to in that document. Daryl, I'll start with you. Did that make sense from your defense perspective?
Well, if you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. They're trying to say, let's see, is it DNA from here? Is it from there? Or maybe it's from both places. So it makes no sense to prevent them from having that DNA available to both sides.
Sure, and I think that's pretty in alignment with the law and precedent here, is the defense has that right, Trebor?
Yeah, that's not unusual, but the risk sometimes you have, depending on how much DNA was present, and if there's not enough to be able to say, well, we can split this, or there was enough after the initial testing to be able to provide to them to have a private lab. So I think that they're setting up for another possible, hearing in reference to that.
That's what it sounds like. It wasn't the first time the prosecution asked for this, but it's the second time now that there's murder charges against the couple. And some of the items, really send chills down your spine, like, the body bag that JJ's, body was found in, used to transport it, under his fingernails and things like that. They're hoping somehow we'll connect, obviously, the prosecutors to one of the defendants, but there's always this Alex Cox element where, he's alleged to be the third co-conspirator. So we shall see. But this could also delay the trial, right, Daryl, if this testing takes a while?
This testing can be over with in a matter of days.
Okay.
It could delay the trial. I don't see that happening. This has gone on, it seems like, before Forever started, and I think it'll finish after Forever ends. It needs to happen. We need to get a jury verdict, and I suspect, based on the evidence that I've seen, guilty for both.
Yeah, it's going to be a 10-week trial. Of course, it's the death penalty trial. There's a couple other motions I want to run past you both that Lori's defense will still be arguing tomorrow. So Chad won't be there, that DNA issue taken care of apparently. So Lori, her case was stayed for a year because of her competency. So she's just now able to challenge the grand jury indictment against her. So she filed a couple of motions. One is to remand the grand jury indictment. She wants to challenge the language of a couple of the counts, count 1 and 3, where it's murder, and then there's also a financial crime alleged in the same count. They say that it should have been separate crimes alleged in separate counts that could confuse the jury. Now, the state did respond and said that Idaho law allows for an allegation in a single count of a conspiracy to commit murder to commit multiple crimes. And they say that this motion for remand is untimely. So I'll start with you, Daryl.
I think it's much ado about nothing in Shakespeare. If I were the state, I would have had separate counts. Make it easy. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it short, stupid. Make sure one does not drag down the other. The jury could conceivably say she's not guilty of a financial crime, and I think she's guilty, I know she's guilty of the murder, but how do I convict her? So I would definitely remand it. I would, on the state side, say, okay, new indictment, re-indictment, unos, dos, 1, 2, done.
Yeah, make it clear, direct, simple. Jurors aren't lawyers, Trebor here, so why not make it simple? And the punishment, too, it could be different for different crimes, right?
That's right. And again, I think it's just another delay, because this is an easy fix. We just go back and we indict again.
Yeah, exactly. So real quick, we only have a limited amount of time, but the other motion is just they want to also remand this grand jury indictment for those aggravating factors. She does face the death penalty. And so the defense was wanting a probable cause determination for each of those aggravating factors the prosecution put forth. They say it's necessary for the prosecution and just to make sure they didn't overcharge those aggravators for the death penalty. The state's responding, we're not required to do that, is what they say in their response. And they also say that it's an untimely motion. Trebor, these aggravating factors include, you know, more than one victim, monetary gain, things like that. They want to make sure there's enough there for this to even go forward.
I think there's more than enough. Again, I think it's just a tactic to delay, and they do not have to. So I think based on those factors, we'll be moving forward.
So, Daryl, this should be a pretty short, simple hearing. What do you think tomorrow, based on what they're going to take up?
You and I both know that short in a court of law is not the same as short in real life. I think it ought to be simple. Keep it very simple as far as the facts are concerned. Keep it focused and let it be. Let it be.
Yeah, and there always could be some other motions just brought up sua sponte between the parties. They haven't been in court in a while, so we'll have our cameras in there, and we're going to bring our viewers that hearing tomorrow live for Lori, Vallow, Daybell.